Hello everyone. I'm going to be showing you how to do this lab of taking control of a server with Armitage. I think it looks kind of like this for you. This is like the fourth time I'm recording this. It's almost 8 o'clock on a Saturday, so I have learned several things throughout going through this lab, and I will tell you that you should not follow these instructions. If you want to reference them I think I link to them right here. If you want to reference them, that's totally fine, but definitely follow my video and listen to what I have to say, because I think I'll give you a lot more hints and show you exactly what you need to do in this. These directions can be pretty confusing. So anyway, let's open up Oracle VM VirtualBox. I'm going to need my Kali Linux machine and my Windows Server. My Windows Server, let's go to Settings, Network, change this to Bridged, click OK. Let's go ahead and launch the server. So we'll get the server set up first, and then we'll boot Kali Linux next. So right off the bat, I can tell you I'm doing this on my personal laptop at home, and I'm not doing this at school. So my IP addresses are going to be 192.168 addresses, whereas at school you guys have 10.5 or 10.6 or 10.7 addresses. So anyway, yours are going to be very different than mine, but aside from the IP addresses, everything else should be relatively similar. I'm going to hit input, insert control delete here, type in my password. So we're going to have to do a couple of things to get this Windows Server set up. First thing that we're going to do is we need to make it vulnerable to this type of attack. So we're going to disable the firewall, and we're going to disable, it doesn't really matter what we do here, we're going to disable this data protection for buffer overflow attacks, which is the type of attack that we're actually going to launch on this server. So as this boots up, let me just kind of talk about, so why would somebody want to disable a firewall, and why would somebody open up ports? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, a piece of malware might disable a firewall automatically. A lot of viruses and Trojan horses and things like that, the first thing that they do once they're installed on your computer is they disable the firewall. So your firewall may become disabled without you even knowing it. The second reason, and more common on a server, is people need ports opened for specific programs or applications that they're using. So a good example is at school, I was building this farm bot, and I needed several ports opened up on the school network so that I could operate the farm bot remotely. Well, the network administrators of the school really hesitated to do that. It was kind of a big deal, because they said, look, if we open up these ports, it's going to expose the school to hackers, and they didn't want the risk. But then on the other hand, I wanted my farm bot to work. It was a pretty big project that I was doing, and so there's just good, risk reward, right? The more open your systems tend to be, the easier they are to work. However, the more exposed they are. So the safest server is the one that's unplugged from the wall, but it's not very useful if it's not connected to anything. So you really have to manage risk when dealing with networks. So on this Windows Server, hopefully this thing's booted up. It takes such a long time to boot up. Click on the Start menu, type in Firewall. Sometimes it doesn't pop up right away. Give it a second here. I don't want the advanced security settings. There we go. I just want the generic Windows Firewall. And then I can click on this turn Windows Firewall on or off, and I can turn it off right here. So I'm turning off the firewall. That's step number one. So the port should be now open on this thing, and it won't necessarily be monitoring traffic. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this folder right here, right click on this PC, go to Properties, and then I'm going to go to Advanced System Settings, and then under Advanced, under Performance, I'm going to click on Settings, and this Data Extrusion Prevention, I'm going to change this to this top one, Turn On. And I need to, it's going to be kind of tricky, but I need to click OK on this thing. which it's not really letting me do right now. I think I might just have to hit enter. Okay, and the changes you have made require restart. Okay, I'll just click OK. Click OK. And now, so what that was, let me go back here. Settings. What this does is this is preventing a buffer overflow attack. So a buffer overflow attack is when your system is basically flooded with different data, and then that data can get executed on the machine, and then basically it can take over the. So this having on right here prevents data from leaking into other applications, but we went ahead and I know it says turn on DEP, but it's basically, this is just for essential Windows programs and services only. So basically the program that we're running, it won't be monitoring, and the data will be able to leak all over the place, and it'll be bad. So okay, let's close out of this. So we need to do one more thing in here. We need to actually install some software on here. So I'm going to go to Devices, Insert Guest Editions, and click on this little folder down here. So the reason we need to install guest editions is we are going to be installing some software onto the server called EasyFTP. In order to get that software onto the system, we have to install guest editions, and guest editions will allow us to create a machine folder, and then once we have the machine folder, then we'll be able to access the software. So anyway, double click on this, hit next, next, install. Alright, so while this is installing, let me talk about the software that we're going to be installing. We're going to be installing EasyFTP. So FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. It uses port 21. It is a very old service that allows, and we can click I want to manually reboot later, hit finish. Let's go ahead and shut down this machine. So choose something else. So FTP allows a server to host files. So think about like Dropbox or Google Drive, but this is old school in the 90s or something. So if somebody wanted to host PDF documents or Word documents or movies or images, not websites, but just files on the internet that people could access on the internet, they'd want to set up an FTP server. Well, FTP servers are really, really unsafe because there are some read-write permissions that allow people to not only access these files, but then also modify them, and that really just opens up the server to a lot of different types of vulnerabilities. So anyway, on this Windows Server 2016, now I'm going to go to Settings, now that this is off. Shared Folder, click on the little folder with a plus sign right there. Click on this drop down and select Other. Now my Windows Tool folder is on my desktop, but yours is not going to be in the desktop. Yours is going to be on the shared drive. So you've had to do this for a couple other labs. You're going to go to the shared drive, so s:/, and then I think it's Main West, Students, AAT, Cybersecurity, and then inside of the Cybersecurity folder, there's a folder called Windows Tools, and that's what you need to select. Again, you've had to select that folder for a few other labs, so I'm not too worried about it. The reason I can't show you is, again, I'm on my laptop, so I can't go through those steps. I can't access the shared drive, but if you have questions or problems with that, just ask me or somebody sitting around you. We also want to make sure that we read only and auto mount that, and click OK, and click OK again, and then let's go ahead and get this server up. So anyway, this FTP service, it's been around for a long time, but it's extremely vulnerable to attacks. So most people have gone away from that. Most people use like Google Drive or Dropbox or those types of services now. But yeah, so input, keyboard, insert, Control, Delete. I'm going to go ahead and type in my password. Whoops. Let's type in the password right now. And our Windows machine is booting up. So the only thing left to do on this machine is to check out what the IP address is and to install that FTP software. So I can close out of this window. I'm going to click on this File Explorer right here, click on this PC, double click on the Z drive right down here, and then I have, this is the Easy FTP server. This is the software that we're going to exploit. It's a terrible piece of software, but it you know, FTP servers are still used today. So I'll double click on Easy FTP, and then I'll get a folder right here, and then I'll drag that folder to the desktop, and that'll basically extract the zip, because this is in a zip right here, but by double clicking on it here and then dragging this folder out to the desktop, the zip has been extracted. So now I'm going to double click on Easy FTP server, double click on the FTP console right here, hit run. We're going to need to set this up a little bit. So in order to set this up, I click on the gear and I click on the IP address of this machine, 192.168.1.141, and I check this box, bind IP, and I click OK, and then it should need to reset. So I knew the IP address of this machine already, but let's go ahead and check it just to confirm everything. So I'll type in ipconfig right here, and notice my IP address of this server is 192.168.1.141. Like I said before, yours is going to be very different than mine. Yours will be 10.7 or 10.5 or something along those lines. Not really a big deal. It's just really important that you know what your IP address of your server is. I do, and so now I'm just going to kind of move my server over here, and let's get Kali Linux all ready to go, because we're going to use Kali Linux to exploit this machine. So Kali Linux, I click on Settings, Network, make sure that this is a bridged adapter, double click on Kali Linux to get this thing up and running, hit enter. So we're going to be using Armitage to hack into the server. Armitage is not installed by default on Kali Linux, so we're going to have to install that software to Kali Linux, but it's not really that big of a deal. It'll be pretty quick. Alright, Kali Linux is booted up. Let's go ahead and open up this terminal here. First thing that I'm going to do on the terminal is, like I said, we need to install Armitage. So I'm going to type in apt-get install Armitage. Whoops. apt-get install Armitage. There we go. So that should install the software to Linux. So, alright, we're installing right now. Should be pretty quick. I'm going to flip over as this is going. There's a FAQ right here. There's a couple of different things that you need to type in. We're going to have to type this in, this command. So I'm going to bring this up as soon as this is finished installing, which it has. I need to type in service post GRESQL start. Let's go ahead, and this is just getting a database up and running so that we can use it. Metasploit database, I forget what the command is to get that running. That's okay though. If we just start Armitage, it'll actually tell us what we need to fix. Luckily, that's a nice thing with Linux. If we forget what to type in, it'll help us. So I'm going to hit connect here, click yes. It's actually going to give us an error here in a second, and we're going to read that error to be able to figure out what to type in next. So Armitage uses Java, which is a pretty old piece of like coding language, and so it runs, I don't know, it doesn't run the best, but it's not, that's why it's not installed by default onto Kali Linux. Kali Linux prefers to use Metasploit, but Armitage has its advantages. Okay, anyway, we need to type in this command right here. So you notice it says, hey, I can't find a database file and I really need one. If we were using Kali Linux 1.0, we'd type in these things, but we're actually using we're using a version of Linux that's greater than this. So we need to type in msf db init. So I click OK. msf db init. Okay, and that's going to create our database for us. Excellent. So our database is now being created, and once this finishes, we should be able to launch Armitage. And we can launch Armitage just by typing in the name of the application into the terminal. And that'll go ahead and launch the program for us. It'll take just a second now. The host right here, you might think, oh, I need to enter in the IP address of the server or the IP address of my Linux machine, but no. You want to keep this at 127.0.0.1. This is called a loopback address. So a loopback address is basically the IP address of the machine the software is running on. So this software is running on this Linux machine, so whatever the IP address is of this Linux machine, that's what this software will connect to. So as you want to use loopback addresses a lot because the IP address of this machine may change over time. We've already talked about DHCP servers in here and how IP addresses are assigned. So your IP address may change over time, but if you use a loopback address in your software configuration, you're always going to be just calling back to this machine, which is exactly what we want. So we want to keep this at 127.0.0.1. Alright, anyway, I'm going to hit connect, click yes. Give this a second to boot up here. Now the last time I ran this, I got a little bit of a Java error. If you get a weird Java error, you should just be able to click OK and still run everything. Fine, we'll see if I get a Java error this time. Nope, it doesn't look like I got a Java error at all. So, but that's okay. If you got one, you just click OK. Armitage is up and running on my machine right here. So, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to map the host that we're planning on attacking. So we want to do what's called a nmap scan. So I'm going to click on nmap scan. Let's do an intense scan right here. And now I'm going to enter in the IP address of my server. So the IP address of my server is 192.168.1.141. You're going to want to enter in the IP address of your server. So obviously yours is going to be different than mine. Yours will probably be 10 dot something, but enter in the IP address of your server right there. Click OK. And this will do a scan. So this scan is going to take some time, probably 3 to 5 minutes. But this scan is just going to see, you notice kind of what ports are open. It's noticing port 21 is open. That port 21, that is the FTP port that we're going to be exploiting. We also see ports 139, 445. Those are open. Those are actually common ports that remain open on most machines. Those are it's not that big of a deal to have those open, but port 21 being open is a big deal. So I'm just going to scan through all the ports and look for potential holes in the system that can be exploited. And you'll notice right on here, nmap is saying, hey, warning from 192.168.1.141, port 21, is this port really open? So this nmap is saying, hey, like the server address, port 21 is open, and that's something that is different, that's not supposed to be open. So yeah, so now we could, if we could use attacks right up here to find suggested attacks to exploit the target. I actually know because we know the software that's running on here, we can find the specific exploit. But if you didn't know the specifics, like what to attack on here, like you just ran this, first thing to do would be kind of read through this nmap, take a look at the specific ports that are open. Port 21 is open, port 135 is open, and then kind of look for like different warnings than an nmap might say, like, hey, port 21 is open, and you can see port 21 right here is for FTP. So, and it's saying probably FTP question mark. So it's saying, hey, an FTP like exploit might work on this machine. So nmap is giving us some clues as to like what we might be able to do. So I actually know the specific exploit that I want to use. I'm going to go to exploits. We're going to go to Windows. We're going to go to, scroll on down here to FTP. I think I passed it, FTP. And then an FTP, I'm going to drag this open. We're going to look for the easy FTP CWD fix ret. So this one. Now, if you just typed in right here, easy FTP, or it's all one word, easy FTP, it should pop up too. We drag this easy FTP, the CWD file, this one, we're going to drag this onto the target machine, which is our server. And the version of the software we're using is it's 1.7.0.11, which is right down here. It's number 9, 1.7.0.11. That's the FTP software that's currently being used. And then I just hit launch, and we'll see what happens. But if this is successfully able to exploit the machine, it should tell us. So that's okay. It looks like it says on here the exploit failed, it's unreachable, the connection refused. Okay, so it says the connection was refused by the remote machine. So what happens a lot is this software crashes. It's, like I said before, it's kind of terrible software. So I'm just going to relaunch. This might happen to you too. I'm just going to relaunch this software. Hit run. Let's go ahead and hit pause here for a second. Stop the service. Click on the start menu, and that'll go ahead and relaunch it on here. Okay, so now let's head back over to my Kali Linux machine, and we can close out of that, and we can try this exploit again. So easy FTP, drag this onto the server. We're going to try again 1.7.0.11 right down there. Hit launch, and that time it was successful. So you notice the image right up here, it changed. So this is now the image of a machine that we've been able to take over. So I can do all kinds of things to this machine. If I wanted to, I can right click on here. I can we can take a screenshot, so I'll click on screenshot right here. This is a screenshot of whatever's on, whatever's going on the server. So I can take screenshots of the server. If I wanted to do if I wanted to browse the files of the file system, you can basically see I can browse the files of the file system. Let's just like see what's on the C drive right here. So I can see what's on my C drive and see what's in the program files. So I can see everything that's installed on this machine. I have access to all of the files of this machine. I can also do a keylogger on here if I wanted. I'm not going to do that, but I could log keystrokes, so anything that the user typed on here I could log. I could take a webcam shot, so take a picture of whatever the webcam sees. I can see the processes running in the background, so show me what exactly is running on this machine. Obviously, with being able to access files, I have access to everything on this machine. I could also go to interact and use this desktop VNC. It's basically VNC is like how you guys connect to PLTW, so I can connect to this machine like and just use my mouse and take it over. So anyway, I'm able to completely yeah, I can do anything. So anyway, you're going to want to take a couple screenshots to this. Take screenshots of you taking a screenshot of the desktop of the machine, the server, and then you being able to access like the files and everything on the server. Now, again, let's say we wanted to protect ourselves against this type of attack. It's really easy and it's on by default, but a piece of malware might turn this off, or somebody might ask you to turn this off because it's hampering one of the programs that they're trying to use. But you should never have this disabled. So we go to File Explorer, we right click on this PC, we go to Properties, I click on Advanced System Settings, then I click on Settings under Performance, and this Data Extrusion Prevention right here, this is what prevents buffer overflow attacks, and that's exactly how that's exactly what Armitage used, a buffer overflow attack, to gain access to this machine. Again, a buffer overflow attack is basically just you throw so much data at the computer, and the packets of data are larger than the computer is normally able to handle, and so outside of the realm of these packets are bits of code that get executed, and those bits of code, once they're executed, just basically open up the computer and give full access to the attacker. So anyway, we had switched it to this. This is obviously bad. If we just click this right here, turn it on, click apply, click OK, then now the machine's protected. And once this machine gets restarted here, let's go ahead and just restart this machine. I'll show you the buffer overflow attack won't be able to work. We're going to come back in here, close out of this, close out of this, close out of that exploit. Let's go to Input, Keyboard, Insert Control Alt Delete. So all I did was change that one little radio button for the data extrusion protection, basically protecting against buffer overflow attacks. And now you'll see if I launch this easy FTP, let's go ahead and run this thing. Now watch what happens. I'm going to put Windows Server kind of right over here, and Kali Linux over here. When I try to run this exploit again on this machine and launch it, you'll notice what happens over here. Windows just automatically closes the program out, and it says, hey, this program has stopped working. And you notice over here it says, yeah, we weren't able to exploit this, and so you don't get the nice picture with the red around it. So basically FTP basic server stopped working because Windows is like, hey, I notice a buffer overflow attack, I'm going to go ahead and shut down this program. And so Windows crashed the program as a defensive measure to protect against this type of attack. So yeah, anyway, there we go. That's how to do this type of attack, and that's how to prevent against it. Hopefully you guys learned something, and let me know if you have any questions, problems, or issues.